Thank you for being able to have me here today. I'm hopefully going to give you a new lease of perspective on the industry. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we currently are in the state of the economy, where the traditional capital markets have been able to fail us, and how we can be able to now be the frontier tech builders of what could be the future. So I hope you are able to enjoy it. I'm quite casual in a lot of what we do, so you'll see lots of fun GIFs in this. And as a start, I wanted to paint a little small picture that I'm stealing from a TED Talk that I saw. But it's this idea that the kids today won't know banks as they currently exist. The idea of being able to give my money to somebody else to hold and to store and to look after will become foreign to them. We all right now have money in our crypto wallets. Whether that's Phantom, MetaMask, Solflare, you're having self-custody over those assets that are within it. And as the industry is growing, we are getting more and more assets that we can be able to hold for ourselves. And so the kids growing up, they won't understand what it was like, and it'll be confusing to them. It will be like, why were you giving away all of that potential yield? Why were you not holding on to your assets? Why were you leaving the security of that point to somebody else to look after for you? And it will be weird to them, just as kids today, if you wanted to send a message to somebody, they would be so shocked to the idea of a letter. It's like you had to write something on paper, then go to a post office, put it in a box, wait multiple days, and then they receive it after the next. That's so weird. I can just text them, and they get it straight away, and we can communicate in a different way. And I see the same thing happening in capital markets, and what's really exciting about our industry is that we're at the frontier of being able to create that. And what we can see is this future of this universal basic ownership. I think this is hopefully a term that not many of you have heard before. I guess a quick show of hands. Who have heard of the idea of universal basic ownership? Okay, we've got one. 1.5. But that's perfect, because this is hopefully what I want to share with you today as a little takeaway. That could be like a new way of thinking about how things can start to evolve over this next decade. With all the other amazing technologies, from AI to quantum to biotech, that's here. This is our industry and what we get to provide to the world. And it's this idea that if you have access to a mobile phone and an internet connection, you can now own any asset anywhere. And I think that's incredibly powerful and very rewarding for our industry to be a part of making. And let's just set a tone now for why there's been failure to the current capital markets and where it's kind of left us. And I've got a few fun graphs and stats to show you, so I'm backing it up with data. The first one is this idea of just government debt. And where we currently are, we're seeing unprecedented levels from all the printing that central banks have been able to do. And it's now at a point where the interest that they're paying on that debt is like a real percentage of GDP. I think in the US, it's now between 2 and 3% of GDP is just debt repayments, which is ridiculously mad that it's been able to get to this point. And it's leading to this hyperinflation, all of these asset bubbles that are here. And another way to kind of look at this and see this is to look at how has, over these last few decades, capital changed versus labor and wages. And you can see there's a stark contrast. If you are owning assets over these last few decades, you have exponentially beat anybody who in the working class who was doing their 9-to-5 roles. And that's a failure of the capital markets. The fact that there is this such big disparity, you can imagine maybe a little, because that's the risk that you're taking owning different assets. But the fact that it's like an exponential difference shows that there's a clear problem. And who is solving this? It's us here today. It's our industry. We're the ones who are being able to see this problem, and we're coming up with solutions to allow that capital, that level of assets, to be opened by anybody. So if you are on that working class, you can still access the same level of assets that have previously been gated and held behind walled gardens. Another fun way that I think can hopefully, and when I heard about this, it really kind of shook me as well, of how to a nice perspective around this, is seeing this kind of statistic on, well, why are we buying the assets? We're buying the assets to buy back our leisure time from our business time. And what's happening now, because you're seeing the assets go so far beyond where wages are, you're basically hyperinflating your freedom. And what was easily to be able to do a few decades ago, 25 hours worth of work, the average wage would buy you one stock of S&P 500, is now 195 hours of work to buy one piece of the S&P 500. That is like the clear result of these asset prices going and the traditional capital markets failing everybody. So we're seeing this general trends of the net worth of the 1% versus GDP dramatically rising, and average wages per percentage of GDP falling. And this isn't a world we want to be in. You know, we want to be in a world where things are flatter and that people have access to the same industries. I think what's really quite cool and fun is how you can look at with these big institutional hedge funds, asset managers getting on board, and retail. With blockchain, we're using the same rails. We're using the same infrastructure. We access the same different things. And I think that's really powerful and exciting and can help kind of bridge this gap. Because we're solving it. And that's what we're here to be able to do. You're also seeing levels of this from traditional areas where, as an investor, I mentioned before about the institutions and retail, the institutional clients have access to new things that are coming up, and they see the private markets as they're going forward. And it's quite interesting to see how there's a lot of big unicorn companies who haven't IPO'd, and that's been rising, but at the same time, IPOs have been going down. But this is not the best way that we can be able to order things, and it's also something which we're not seeing in our industry. If you look at how many tokens are being released, how many new assets are being issued, like these are now steadily rising. And this is the infrastructure that's bootstrapping the way where we can be able to have a world where we are all owning the same assets in one market, and we're making really good progress. You know, like we're creating our own exponential graphs here, and we still got a long way to be able to go in order to allow everyone to be able to access to it. So everyone here, you're still early. You're still at this frontier where we get to decide and shape it as it's moving forward, and you can make a meaningful impact in this. Like even if you look at the growth from the Solana tokens being released, a lot of that is meme coins. It's what Pump Fund was able to create as a UK team who have been able to generate vast amounts of opportunity for anyone to create one of these tokens. They just completely flattened it so anyone can do it for less than a couple dollars, and that allowed this new wave of assets to be issued on-chain. And then now, as we're seeing the institutions start to play a little bit more, the rise of RWAs and different types of things that you can buy is dramatically growing. And I think that's super exciting for us to be a part of, and anyone can help shape this, and things move really quick. And when you talk about these startups, it's not just relative to crypto. These startups are the highest revenue-generating startups in the world. You know, look at Axiom came out of the YC Combinator, and they've been able to be the fastest person ever to get to $100 million worth of revenue. That's incredible. That's awesome. That's an amazing success story for our industry in why you want to be in this space and what opportunities get created when you solve problems around it. And it allows us to make sure that we're included in the conversation. Because I do believe that crypto, as a term, has been crowded. Like, people don't like that term. Crypto is a scam. Blockchain technology is this new amazing technology. And I think we as an industry need to do our part in being able to make sure we're sharing the narrative to everybody that blockchain is one of these new emerging technologies. And when you work in building this space, you're at the frontier of technology. And it's examples like this, how the startups in this space have beat all the other Y Combinator startups that have come before, as a clear example of why there's a real opportunity here and why you want to be a part of it. And as I said, these institutions are now coming and waking up to it as well. I think that's been a big trend this year. You're seeing all the different big banks, all the different asset managers start to play in the world. And that gives us real good credibility. And it's really important to be able to have these people start playing, because they bring a lot of liquidity, they bring a lot of attention, and we need that new lease of attention to kind of shroud the 2021 NFTs and crypto bubble that we had, and kind of make sure that our industry is being taken seriously for the incredible technology that it is. And I would like to paint another little picture, because I think this is a really cool, awesome thing for the small businesses who are coming forward. Imagine when you go into your coffee shop and when you give your tip, you're not just giving a tip, you're being able to get a little bit of share in their company, and now you get paid an annual dividend for more forward from that point. Like, that's the place that we get to go into. We're collapsing the regulatory, the process that you need to do in order to be able to issue out these tokens and allow people to have equity in your company. So for small businesses who are profitable, this could be a really good unlock for them and allow them to start placing new dynamics, for them to build real deep loyalty within their community and to be able to start shaping a new world and have different types of investment backing them, almost similar to how we can connect the high street to Wall Street. And being able to connect those dots, I think, is super impactful. And again, this is the type of stories that our industry is creating, and we can be able to be at the forefront of building. And with everything happening specifically here in the UK, I think there's a big thing of us being able to work together. You know, we need to be able to win and help win. We need to be able to support one another. We need to be able to share the same stories, share the same narratives. And through this impact, we can be able to make sure that the change can happen. From the regulatory point of view, there's a lot of education that can be happening to the policymakers and regulators, and together we can be able to share that. From the talent point of view, we need to be able to keep our founders here, keep our talent here. Don't allow them to go off and around the world and go to different places because they think it's going to be better for their company. How are we making sure the network effects are still here and we're able to secure that so when the next unicorn comes through, they're a British founder who is able to make that, and we can be able to help support them in that journey and surround them by the people that they need to be able to be supported with. And we're making strides. Like literally, even just these last couple of weeks, I think have been awesome for the London scene. Like, I've been doing events with SuperteamUK for the last couple of years now, and in the last 2 weeks, it's probably actually been the most events that I've seen in like a condensed period. 50+ events, 5 different conferences, all different side events, real good investment into the industry as well, from like companies saying, hey, I want to invest into finding UK talent, UK customers. I think that's really awesome to be able to see, and that's the type of support that we want in our industry to be making more noise about and making sure London and the UK as a whole is a real hub for creating that movement. And when you're looking at each other in this room now, one thing I will hopefully want you to be able to take away is this idea that I'm not working in crypto. I work at the frontier of tech. I am literally at the bleeding edge of technology, and I'm solving the capital markets problem. Those statistics that I shared at the beginning, every single one of you, by being in this room and being able to help support and whatever conversation you go on from here forth, you're helping shape that better future. And you're at that frontier, and I think that's something that maybe people don't think about enough, but the world was built up by people no smarter than you, and so you have the ability to change it. That's a Steve Jobs quote that I stole as well. And so it's an awesome space that you get to be able to decide, and because we're at that frontier, the innovation's rife. And so it's an incredible opportunity for all of you, and that's what we're here to be able to help support with, and that's what SuperteamUK we do. And this is hopefully a path that you want to be able to go down and get into, because when you're looking at that future, when you're building this new internet, you have to now look at what path do we want to go into. And when I talk about this universal basic ownership, another reason why it's so important beyond the failure of the current capital markets is because there's other pressures from other technologies that will push us towards this. You're seeing with the rise of AI, lots of jobs are going to be impacted. There's potentially going to be a need of like, well, what solution do we have this when we're also seeing the capital up here, the wages here? Like, what are we going to do? Do we have to go to a welfare state where you have to have a universal basic income for people to be able to be paying their bills? I believe in this idea that we can be able to have basic ownership instead. And that can be a way that we can create a similar effect, and everybody can be supported as we go through these new times where we don't 100% know what world will look like in a decade. We don't know what it will look like in multiple decades. And so being able to at least ground ourselves in this ability of like, I own my assets, I hold what I'm holding, and I understand the yield I'm generating and looking after that diversified portfolio gives me my strength to know that I can pay the bills tomorrow. And that's what we want to be able to see. And as I said, everyone here is being able to be a part in building that. And if this idea and this picture I painted in your heads here today sounds interesting and you want to be able to get involved, that's where we're here to be able to support. SuperteamUK have been going over the last couple of years. We're a global organization. 20+ different countries around the world have a super team in. We've been able to help founders globally raise over £75 million. We have a really cool community GDP, which is the earnings of that community. That's over 13 million, and we're constantly striving and growing. Here in the UK, I do co-working Fridays every week at Somerset House, We do awesome events, and it's a really good place to start. You can speak to our AI bot Dandy at our booth, or come by and see me there. But I appreciate you being able to listen to me here today, and I hope you can walk away with this new idea of universal basic ownership, and hopefully a new lease of life for why you're here building this industry, and you're at the frontier of building the new internet, and that's pretty exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.